that's not why we're there.
Very good.
That's good. That's good clarification.
There's been, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
There's been talk, speculation off and on, especially since 2003, about how much the Archbishop of Canterbury and the wider Anglican communion understands our polity, as opposed to whether they understand it but just don't like the way we operate. Did you get any kind of sense about that?
Well, I mean, he's clear that he understands our
Oh,
politics.
he understands.
He says it, and he says it. So there's no question there. I think that there are lots of reasons why other communion, other provinces in the Anglican communion, to use all that lingo that we use, why they have problems with.
In some ways, it's cultural.
Responding to us, and I think part of it is that when, and that's right. Part of it is that when you look at any other institution, you try to find the pieces of institution that are most like yours.
Right, so you
and
can
those
understand
are the ones,
it.
And those are the ones you hook up with. And of course, bishops, and many times, most like theirs. And that's what you go to. But I do think that they understand that we have a different polity. Yeah.
And it is problematic because we believe, as in our church that God guides us using all four rudders. The bishops, the priests, the deacons, and the laity. Use all of those, and that broadens what we say, but it also slows down what we say and our ability to say it. And that's not the way other churches in the Anglican communion understand it. That many churches God uses one rudder, that's the bishops, to steer that body, and that's cultural, it's theological, it's other things like that. But we are a problem to other people because we move more slowly, but we're really convinced that that's the way we were put together, that's the way we want to hold together.
But to add on to the question, did the Archbishop suggest that the changes that he would want to see in the way the polity works or in the way it relates to the Anglican communion? Does that make sense?
No, I think he asked us to.
He did say
if this polity is so different from others.
We shared with him our frustrations about how we're addressed or those kinds of things. He shared that for others in the communion, our timetables can be frustrating, and that the length of time it takes us because of our 3-year cycle, that can be frustrating, and that so much is happening so quickly. They're looking for something from the Episcopal Church sooner than 3 years, and that their frustration is they don't know how to get it.
And that's where we came into brainstorming, just like Frank was saying, just sharing some possibilities and the addressing who these requests are addressed to is a good way to start acknowledging the fact that the voices of the laity and the clergy in our church are a foundational value for us, and that our bishops cannot make decisions unilaterally.
He did say that, stop me if you don't say something. That
just kick you so they can't
there
see.
you go. That many of the bishops in the communion have trouble hearing from anyone other than other bishops.
Right.
And so what I heard from that was some of the rest of the communion needs to hear from our bishops, but that's not how we work, and so there's a disconnect there. That other bishops want to hear what the bishop said. The interpolation I put on it was they may not care what the other orders had to say. They want to know what the bishop said. That's not how he put it. He simply said
not at all.
bishops want to hear from other bishops.
But doesn't that go back to the lack of understanding of the organization and who has a right to speak for the Episcopal Church in this country?
My guess,
the separate
my guess
voices?
is that there is an intellectual understanding, because the system itself on paper is not that complicated. These are not dummies. I mean, they can figure it out.
Right.
But you get into the theological assumptions and cultural assumptions, things like that really say, well, yes, that's there it is. But I just want to know what comes out of this pocket, and that's or anything that you say over here in this lay order, get the bishop to say it, and then I'll think it's okay. It's that kind of stuff.
Well, the other thing I think is that, there's this my evil twin thinks that maybe if we're ignored enough, we'll just go away, or that we won't have to be legitimized if nothing is addressed to the laity and the clergy, and if everything is addressed to the bishops, and if our bishops answer those questions, then why bother with us? So I think there's a significant amount of pressure on our bishops to succumb to something that isn't in our polity, just by the fact that if we go through the list and list all the requests that have been made and who they've been made to and who they've been made by, nothing comes to the House of Deputies or to the laity and clergy, even on our executive council, except we've made provisions for dealing with the covenant that way, so that we have equal voices. Except when the Lambeth Conference was in the picture, we had to speak through our bishops because of the timing. There was no way for the clergy and laity to have their voices heard on the comments of the second draft of the covenant. So we had to tell our bishops what we wanted them to take to the Lambeth Conference, which we're not used to doing.
But in that case, I think that's a good case in point of a polity adapting to a political reality.
Right.
Our church takes all those voices seriously, so our bishops listen to what the other order said.
Exactly.
But the fact is that the situation was that only bishops went to that gathering. So I think we honored our principles. We all got our voice in, but the political reality was that the only group was gathering was bishops. So I think that's an example. This was not part of our conversation with the Archbishop, but I think that's an example of a polity doing its best in a political reality, and honoring the principles and founding law. So I think it's not a bad example.
Should we talk about the
Right,
second
I was going to say, the